Thank you for coming. So this title says Economics of Distributed Compute, but it really should say maximizing your unused ceiling capacity, maximizing your unused CPUs. And so I'm aware that a lot of Filecoin miners have CPU capacity which is latent, ceiling capacity which hasn't been maximized. And Fluence has the ability for you to start earning on that. So let me first give you a minute on what Fluence is, and then I'm going to go through the economic system we've designed, which I think is pretty interesting. So Fluence is a decentralized serverless compute platform. And so what does this mean? It means it's general purpose compute that is decentralized, which means it is trustless and it's censorship resistant and it's fault tolerant and it's distributed. So this is for applications that are global and that need kind of resilience and do not want to be bound by traditional cloud. And what Fluence does is it replicates the cloud stack, but you want to do that in a decentralized manner. And so this is this requires CPU compute. The only real equivalent to this is if you're looking at smart contracts, but we're not talking smart contracts. Like Filecoin, this is all off-chain. So what does this actually mean in more detail? You want to run arbitrary code without limitations, run on the edge. There's no consensus because it's off-chain, and it's compatible with multiple data inputs. I don't think that none of those details I think are super relevant to dig into here for this audience. But I think the point you should know is that we expect and know there's a lot of demand for this. Because when you have compute that is far cheaper and it's less censorable and it is verifiable and you're free from cloud lock-in, there is a lot of interest in that compute. And so that is the network that we're building. And with your help, with all the FIL miners' help, I think we can together build a very powerful compute network. And that is, I think, there's terrific demand for that. We think it's the next generation of the web. And so started off with mainframes and desktops. Everyone here is very familiar with that. Over decades, we moved to the cloud, kicking and screaming. And now the cloud is the default. We think the next generation, and probably the final step here, is decentralized serverless compute, where compute exists everywhere and nowhere in a decentralized way, which is the cheapest and most effective way. And frankly, if we don't get there and we're stuck here, then that means we're stuck with governments basically running everything. And so we have to get to here one way or another with Fluence or with another solution. It's hard because you need generalized compute capacity, you need it to be verifiable and scalable. And you can't do all three of those with smart contracts. So you need generalized compute. The challenge is being decentralized and verifiable without blockchain. So that is the challenge. We have a variety of solutions for that. This isn't the forum to go into it, but this is, I just want to give you understanding of why this is going to work and why it's compelling, because that's important for you as you decide to put your CPUs on the network. There are two parts to the platform. There's a developer platform and there's a computing network. What do we care about right here? We care about the computing network. We'll talk about developer platform another time. So it's powered by a computing marketplace. Now we're getting into where you guys come into play. But we think it's going to be low price, decentralized compute capacity, and there we have capacity incentives to drive network use. And then there's a deal marketplace with discovery. But the real point is, how does this work? And so here's where the economics come into play and what I think is worth a deep discussion. We've had discussions with multiple Filecoin miners, and we want to basically allow you to earn from your unused CPU capacity. And everyone's chasing GPUs, but this is for CPUs, which I think is used for, you all invested in for your ceiling. And so now it's sitting there, and we think this is a way to generate revenue from it. You basically, and there's two ways this happens. The first way is a proof of compute, similar to proof of storage. Right, so you generate proofs of your compute and you'll be paid in the Fluence token, which is another revenue stream for you. But the next part is the actual compute jobs. And unlike other economic systems, the compute jobs will be paid in stablecoins. And so you will earn basically fiat revenue at the costs and prices that you determine. So you then are earning fiat-based revenue, which should cover your costs with some margin, and having crypto upside. So, if we look here, we don't work without compute providers being happy. All right, so our focus is how do we solve the problem of what compute providers are facing, and how do we make them profitable businesses? And so we've spoken to several, and what do they want? We think that you guys want reliably cover your costs with some margin, insulate yourselves from the crypto downside, but you also want to benefit from crypto upside, which is understandable. You're helping build this system, you're helping build this network, so you should certainly profit from it when it succeeds. And you also don't want to invest and stake the coins, right? That's a huge capital drain that causes, potential real volatility. So the Fluence solution is you earn revenue in stable coins, and you price the system, you price your compute in the manner you see fit. Now, frankly, I don't think there's going to be huge margin in it, but there will be some margin. It certainly should cover your costs. And then we provide Fluence coins on top of that revenue for you. So that allows you to generate return above your cost and benefit as our network grows, as demand grows, as use grows. That then gives you crypto upside, which I think everybody is interested in. And then we have investors provide the stake or almost all the stake. We may have a first loss for compute providers just to ensure that incentives are aligned, but investors will provide the bulk of the stake, not miners. So that we think is, that way your compute provider's business is protected from the market vol by the stablecoin revenue, but the Fluence rewards are additive on top of that and provide real kind of convexity to the upside. So, the other point here is we want to drive network use. And so these crypto incentives are useful to bootstrap an ecosystem, but they're really, only thing crypto is doing is really forecasting out what this network is going to be worth in the future, what the demand of these coins are going to be worth in the future, right? That's all this is really happening. It's just the same, discounted cash flow concept, but just far further out that stock, are subject to. And so you gotta have network revenue and network use in order for that to ultimately become worth anything. And the market has to believe it. So it comes from, and where does network use come from? It comes from useful compute. And so this is just a graphic that I designed. So you basically think about your fiat revenue being this line, and crypto price goes up and down, just a crypto price. You could be in the red a whole bunch, or you could be in the black or white. So, this provides, you get a return regardless of where a crypto price is, but then you benefit from the upside. But the real point I'm getting at is that we've got to drive real compute demand. And so Fluence recognizes this, because without real demand, this network isn't successful, the coin doesn't work, and the model doesn't work. And so from day one, we're going to be working on securing compute customers. That's one of the things we're doing at this conference. So stage one is talking to compute providers to make sure you're interested in adding your capacity to the network. We also have to drive compute usage, because that's what drives the baseline kind of stable coin fiat-based revenue for miners. And so we're building a business development team to actually go do that. We're not relying on compute providers or SPs to go find customers. That's kind of our initial responsibility. And we want compute users to go to Fluence to have their jobs completed cheaply, reliably, and securely. And so we think when you incent providers to add compute, we have a lot of compute on the network, you then are going to attract compute jobs to the network. And that is a cycle that we think is a powerful cycle, which we're kicking off, in the next couple of months. And when we talk about compute demand, serverless compute, how big is that? All right. Serverless compute's about $9 billion this year, and forecast to grow to $55 billion by 2030. All right, that's a big market, just serverless. Right, we're not talking cloud. We're not talking traditional cloud, I should say. And it's all in the centralized cloud. And the reason it's there is because there are no decentralized alternatives. And together with this ecosystem, we can create the decentralized serverless market and take it from zero to a material piece. Now, we're not talking about capturing some of that 9 billion, but that's growing at 400 million a year, right? So just piece of that growth is all we need to do for this to be incredibly lucrative for miners and to have a very successful network and protocol. And so, storage and compute together create a proper cloud. Compute needs storage needs compute, and we are, excited to partner with Filecoin and with this and Protocol Labs and this ecosystem to add and to maximize the infrastructure you guys have invested in, and together drive a more kind of powerful decentralized solution. So who is Fluence? Well, we're back. We've raised 15 million. We're backed by some of the top investors in the market, including Protocol Labs. So we could have raised a lot more. This is what we did about a little while ago. And what's our mission? We want to empower the next wave of internet innovation. And we don't know all the innovation that open compute can achieve, but we know it's significant. And so that's what we're really excited to do. And this is how to follow us, but the main thing I want to show you is that, because that's where compute providers, you can register your interest, sign up, give us a little bit of information about the amount of capacity you think you have, about when it might be able to come on and what your costs are. We want to make sure that we're generating enough revenue for your cost to be covered. And we also want to have a sense as to how much we think we're going to launch with in terms of servers and in terms of cost, so that we can appropriately gauge the network. So that is that's how we're set up. So please sign up and tell all your other compute capacity, your other storage provider friends and colleagues. And together, let's make this. Let's maximize all the hardware you guys have invested in and build a decentralized compute network. So thank you very much. Happy to take questions.
Are there any questions? I have a question actually. So this is like only focused on CPU, right? There
Correct.
are no hardware or hard disk requirements like NVMe's or something.
No, we haven't spec'd anything like that out necessary. It's not necessary yet.
Okay, because I think like where the compute or like CPU network kind of fits into like the ceiling hardware is like a lot of storage providers has this like pre-commit one optimized ceiling hardware, which is like CPU heavy and also like NVMe disks with a lot of RAM. So I guess like that is where the niche for like the CPU especially comes in. We have other like parts of the ceiling stack which is a lot more like GPU heavy, but like you usually separate those servers.
Well, and that is what is appropriate for us. I mean, there's a lot of people probably targeting the GPU area, which is terrific. That isn't the focus. And in terms of the specific, I guess I'm. That config you're talking about, I'm not as sure as to whether that makes a difference or not.
Yeah. Another question, like, so are you integrating like the ability to? Is it basically just like targeting like unused ceiling hardware, or like integrating also with the Falcon network?
Both. And so as of now, we're sort of working on the architecture decisions, but we're trying to actually run the compute marketplace on the FVM. So that is, and we're sort of working on how best to do that. We like FVM because it's cheap and performant. And so that's relevant to us while also being kind of ERC20 compatible. So that's that's something that we're sort of working on. But so that would be a deep integration, yes.
Cool, very cool. Any other questions? I have one last question. So like, if you're doing like the deep integration, do you like envision like integrating with the storage provider implementations, or are you like planning to run like a sidecar, basically a binary for running the Fluence protocol?
I don't. I think it's more of a sidecar, but because that integration leads to other levels of complexity, and we're not exclusive to, compute to storage providers. So we want it to be, storage providers are the initial marketplace which we're talking to, and think they're the largest group of compute that we can access, but we don't think that's exclusively the group that we'll access ultimately.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.